Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the ninth round of the season here in the Midwest. Sorry, not the Midwest, the Monkey Mafia Esports Series. We're here tonight at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache here in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The midway point of the season is upon us. In fact, now as we get into the home stretch of the season here, it is going to be one hell of a fight to the finish. That part's for sure. We've got a hugely difficult schedule ahead of us here. Monaco on the 27th, Jeddah on the 4th, Austria on the 11th, Qatar the 18th, Netherlands on the 1st of January, and then Imola on January the 8th to round out the season. This is going to be an incredible fight to the finish here, and a season that has seen its share of domination, but a season that has also seen its share of excitement. That was a lot of mincing about words there in that one go. Somehow I got through that. Hotspot on the call for you, and it's the full wets here in Brazil. Who would have thought that? This is one of those things you do have to expect when coming to this circuit, and well, as you can see, the water is collecting on the surface, at least to my eye here. The water is collecting on the surface. The rain, it's pouring cats and dogs. And at first glance, it is going to be full wets on display. Hotspot on the call for you this time out. Here in Monkey Mafia Esports. It's been a great season to be along with so far. And I can't wait to see where this round goes. We do have 14 on the grid tonight. Not bad at all. Definitely a respectable grid. So let's take a look at our driver standings before we get into it here. We've got Shariah Coleslaw atop the table at 198. Gab in the McLaren in second at 165. Lancey has joined up full-time. He belongs to the Ferraris now in third at 165. Well, I actually tell you what, tied with Gab for second at 165. Reimer fourth at 159. Cynical 146. Caesar 133. Slayerized 112. Fireballer 108. Gazboy 100. And Mazda Guy at 78. That rounds out your top 10. Every one of those drivers had their good share of moments throughout the season so far. I tell you what, we are still yet to see a driver out on track. According to my indication here in the top right-hand corner of the screen, it is still the intermediate tires. That is going to be, I would think, rather bold. I'm not sure if that's going to be the preferred tire or not. We're going to get the Mercedes of Mini out on track before that of our championship leader of Shariah. And Mini does appear to be on the intermediates as well as the drivers that come out behind him. So maybe the full wet's not the move, or maybe it's just still at the point now where intermediates might get the job done. As you can see, it is. Sorry, that's actually VTech exiting the pit lane. Apologize for that. Wrong Mercedes. But VTech on his way out, and I tell you what, yeah, the track does look pretty okay. It's not the best by any means, but it definitely looks a lot better than it did in the pit lane. So intermediates might be the way to go, and it definitely, at first glance, I mean, you could see in some spots the rain collecting, but it's not all that bad just yet. I think the full wets are still a little bit out of the picture. Perhaps if it gets any worse or continues, the full wets will be on display. But VTech is out first. Your Drivers' Championship goes as follows. McLaren, 298, Ferrari, 257, Alpine at 213, Red Bull, 193, Alfa Romeo, 190, Aston Martin, 181, Williams, 119, Mercedes, 95, Haas, 57, and AlphaTauri, 54. VTech out on track here. The driver who I think I'm definitely going to be looking out for today has to be that of Shariah Coleslaw. He may be, leading the Drivers' Championship, but his, I would say, main rival and his actual teammate of Lancey has won a commanding 5 rounds this season. Shariah only the one to his name. If Lancey was full-time and he actually had the obligation to show up every week, I tell you what, he probably would have swept the season so far, and he probably, would be well out ahead of the grid here. Well, Shariah has done 1 lap and has decided to come back in. Is that an indication that he thinks it's too much for the intermediates? That could be the case. The driver who's going to stick with it, however, is that of Cynical, making his way into the Senna S's. The first corner now. Let's see what he has here. Down the hill through these first couple corners. It's tricky in the dry, never mind the wet condition here. Out of the Senna S's into Curva del Sol, turn 3. Reta Aposta, the opposite straight here, making his way down in towards Dolago. Turn 4 and 5, Descida Dolago is the full name of it. But we'll reference it as Dolago, perhaps. Out of turn 5, up the hill towards the right-hander of Ferradura. Ferradura. Ferradura, I think is what I'll just say. I'll put the English on it. Ferradura, turn 6. I don't even know how to pronounce that. S at turn 8. I don't. How do you pronounce some of these? Pinerino. Pico de Pato, turn 10. What I do know is coming out of turn 11 here, which is what he's going to be going through here in a minute, where we saw Max Verstappen pull off that wonderful drift in his early career, into Jun Chao, turn 12, the junction corner. And as he exits that, he'll go through... I'll just stick with the ones I know. I'm not trying to make an ass of myself today. Turn 13 now, round turn 14, and eventually 15. Very fast final sector of this track. You do love to see it. You do get the full pace of how quick these cars are. And in the wet conditions, 1:19.839 is the first lap on the board. A respectable one, I'd say. Perhaps it won't be pole, but a good one at that. Who's this? Ray Ray's going to go 1:21.779. Mind you, he is on the full wets. See, has anybody else decided to take the full wets here? That's going to be my question. No, it's just Ray Ray for the time being. The two McLarens making their way around the line now. Caesar will go 1:26.43. His teammate of Gab will actually leapfrog him by about 2.5 tenths there. He'll be promoted to the second spot. Next up, the Mercedes of Mini. Goes about a second and a half off the pace. Light work coming around the final couple of corners now. To the line he goes, it'll be P2, 1:19.911. 7/100ths of a second behind Cynical. And I tell you what, Cynical's lap looks very good, very convincing. But I tell you what, in the wet here, there is a lot of time to be made up. That is a big thing. You know, typically that kind of a lap where you're only behind by 7/100ths, it's not a lot of, you know, ground to make up, not a lot of ability to make the ground up here on a track that is very straightforward, I'd say. Not a lot of, it's a very short lap time, realistically. And you've just not got a lot of time to actually make up in parts of the lap. So, I will say, though, in the wets, Cynical, his lap might be vulnerable, but for the time being, it's atop the table. I believe it's the Mercedes of VTEC coming around the line now, in towards the Senna S's here. Makes his way then into the left-hander of Curva do Sol. Tell you what, the car looks pretty stable at the moment. No massive sign of oversteer. Let's see how he does going through Do Lago. Doesn't really use the curb much on the inside. Maybe when he got on the outside curb there, he got to spun the tires a little bit. As you would expect, the curbs are going to give you less grip here in the wet. Ferradura, top of the hill, turn 6. Light work has just gone fast. It's 1:18.935. And I tell you what, I didn't quite notice this at first. It does look as if the rain is getting lighter, perhaps. At least to my eye, that is actually kind of how it looks. So 1:18.935 tells me the rain is lightening up here. The track is beginning to work into more of a situation for the intermediates, and those lap times are going to keep getting faster. Because that's 9/10ths of a second better than Cynical so far. Let me tell you, Cynical's lap looked really good. Slayer Eyes is on a timed lap now. Slayer Eyes, I believe, taking a win earlier in the season. Well, I guess maybe not. I tell you what, he has been... Oh, that's a big wiggle then, but he has been on the cusp of some great results at Slayer Eyes, and I fully expect him to have the ability to put one in today. I'm just wondering how the conditions are going to fare when it comes to race time. And he's gone purple sector 1. And as you can see, visibly, the rain is starting to lighten up here, so perhaps that's why everybody's on track now. Or well, I say everybody's on track. Most people have got a timed lap going. Either that or they're just trying to get acclimated with the circuit. I know the weather is wet, but you know, think of it like a batting donut, really, in baseball. How you make the bat heavier, you swing it a couple times, so when you get into the box, the bat feels lighter. And I think that's kind of what they're doing. They're going out on these intermediate tires, knowing the track, the conditions are going to get better, perhaps, so that the cars feel easier to drive at the end of it. That's actually not a bad strategy. I wish I could have thought of that in some of my other races. But Slayer Eye's now making his way through out of Zhengzhou, through turn 13, and eventually 14 and 15, rounding off the lap here. Looks to be a great one, has to be said. It was purple sector 2. And as he makes his way through the final corner at turn 15 and to the line he goes, it'll only be P6, 1:29.41. A lap that initially looked really good. Ends up 2 seconds off the pace. That's slightly surprising to me, has to be said. VTEC coming around the final stages of the lap now. He looks like he's going to be perhaps starting a new one here. That is what I would think. Gazboy coming around the line now. To the line goes Gazboy. He'll actually go P5, 1:21.06. Not bad at all. Puts himself 1.2 behind Lightwork at the moment. My eyes, I tell you what, I know I said earlier my eyes were going to be on Shirai Coleslaw. My eyes are on Reimer here. He's coming off a win yesterday. Sunday. Well, yeah, actually, yesterday at that point. Sunday afternoon in the Jag Racing League S Series. Very hard-fought victory at the, what was it? We were at Losail. We were in Qatar. Great victory for him. One that's, I think, Reimer's, we've been saying this for a couple of weeks now. Reimer has been on the cusp of being a really great driver and putting together some wins. That was the first time I've seen him win, was yesterday. Do the floodgates open, no pun intended for Reimer here. As at the moment in this rainy Brazil, he has yet to put together a timed attempt. Currently in the pits includes Lightwork, Caesar in P4, who, he's a second off the pace at the moment. He's not that far away from both Slayerized and VTech. One good lap from Caesar could put him, respectively onto that first row, perhaps even further up on the second row, I would think. I believe Slayerized has just gone P3, and there's VTech, 118. Oh, sorry, Slayerized has actually gone a little bit off track there. VTech, 118.796. That improves over Lightwork by about a tenth and a half. Not bad at all. As Reimer, 117.948. And we thought the track was ramping up here. That's the first driver in the 117s, and that is almost 8.5 tenths better than VTech here in VTech, a lap that initially looked very, very good. It has to be said, the rain is still falling, but it is getting lighter, at least to the point where driving it is going to be a valid option, and we're going to get some proper... Oh, goodness me! Well, he's gone well deep into the corner, I think. The reason he's done that, he had the Alfa Romeo behind him of Slayerized, who, perhaps he figured was on a timed lap. Well, he's invalidated. VTech has gone for a hellacious ride into the barriers outside of Ferradura, atop turn 6. So the line now is the Alfa Romeo of George Mazdaguy. I believe this is going to be the lap to look out for here for him. Perhaps. I doubt 7.2 off the pace is going to be his best attempt. I would hope not. Ray coming around the line now. Now, again, he has chosen the full wets. That seems slightly bold to me why he's been on the full wets. It's absolutely time for the intermediate tires. I would argue the first time when he was out on track and he set that time of a 1:21.779, I could argue that was the time for the wet tires. As you can see, he is struggling to get any sort of lateral grip, and this car is one hell of a monster to tackle at the moment. And Ray, I would expect, he is going to at least visually abandon this lap, and he'll be back in for the intermediates here shortly. Mazdaguy making his way into Pico Tapato, the Duck's Beak at turn 10. Exiting that corner, now entering Sector 3 here in a moment, as he heads down the hill towards turn 12 of Junshao. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I'm sorry. Cynical 117.640. Atop the table by 0.3 of a second over Reimer. Very good lap there from Cynical, and I tell you what, this is, going to be the start of the... I don't want to say the beginning of the end here, but with 5.5 minutes to go, you'd expect a lot of these drivers to, be coming in here shortly, getting all the necessary adjustments made, and then making that one final push for the time lapse, I believe, as Gazboy, well, he's getting out of the way there for the Williams of Fireballer. The Fireballer yet to put down a timed lap. Working on that. Purple Sector 2 from Fireballer. Exits Junshao up through the very fast left-handers of Sector 3. Tell you what, looks a good lap here from Fireballer. To the line he goes. It's going to be in the mid-118s, 118.778. 1.13 off of pole position. Puts himself third with 4.5 minutes to go. Yeah, I tell you what, that's not going to be the most comfortable lap time there for Fireballer. There's a lot of cars in the back end of the 117s into the mid-118s that I think are really going to have a look at pole position here. I think anybody within that second. Reimer P2 at the moment, I think he's a pretty comfortable bet to knock Cynical off here if there's anybody to do that. But realistically, from Fireballer on back, it is anyone's game. The driver who has yet to put in a timed attempt, even leave the pit lane, I believe, who's doing so now, is that of Lancy. He's coming out on track for what I believe is the first time here. He has yet to put together a timed attempt. And the Dutchman is getting the signal that the pit lane is clear, and there he goes. Meanwhile, in case you haven't noticed, we do have the brilliant-looking Las Vegas Ferrari white and red livery here. That just looks absolutely striking out on track. Much better than the original, and a damn sight better than the yellow that they added. This is a brilliant-looking car, and I do hope that for future seasons they rock with something very close to this, because that just looks actually great. Shirai Coleslaw, purple Sector 2, exits Jun Shao, up through Sector 3 now. Tell you what, this is looking a good lap here from Shirai. To the line he goes. 1:18.255, about a second faster, moves up into 5th. And I tell you what, I think there's still some left there for Shirai, whether he gets into the pits in time and is able to put together another timed lap. Our championship leader, that's going to be another question. Cynical 116.916. Puts himself atop the table over Slayer Eyes by almost a clean second. That gap from Reimer back to Slayer Eyes is about 8/100ths of a second. Not bad at all. I tell you what, we're going to have some fair competition for this front row spot. Cynical's in a great place at the moment. Less than 3 minutes to go now. Not a lot of time. Caesar is 9/100ths faster through the first sector. See if he's able to capitalize. He makes his way up the hill in towards Ferradura. That's going to be a tricky corner, nonetheless. It always is. Just imagine how difficult it is in the wet conditions. I believe we just had VTech go second. Yes, we did. Less than 4.5 tenths back to Cynical. 2 minutes and 20 seconds remaining here. Caesar into Biga de Pato at turn 10. Looking a solid lap. He doesn't have much battery left. Assuming the timing stays his way, he'll complete this lap here with 2 minutes and 5 seconds to go. He is purple by 7.5 tenths. That'll move him roughly into the top 4 at the moment. At least for the time being. Whether he stays there or not is going to be the question, but into the top 4 he'll go. As he comes around to the line, GSR Caesar, it'll be a 1:17.528, improves by just about a second. Third place for him, moves within 6.5 tenths. Cynical, I tell you what, I think he's going to be starting one here. Vulnerable isn't the word I would use to describe him. But if he's not careful and he doesn't improve again, I expect somebody here might be able to take that pole spot. Less than 2 minutes to go. Cynical making his way through Curva do Sol now. Oh, but he's had one hell of a slide coming out of Curva do Sol. He's had the oversteer on the back end. He's got 1:15 to get back around. Does he conserve? Does he have enough fuel? That may be the end of the session there for Cynical. Was I saying Lightwork? Apologize for that. Cynical has just gone. Sorry, Lightwork has just gone 1:16.507. And he's... Well, that's the end of his timed attempt there, but Cynical... Yeah, he's got some work to do here. Hopefully he can get back around in time. Who will get around in time is Reimer. 50 seconds to go now. Reimer has clean track ahead of him. Reimer, with the clear air, might have himself a great lap here. Out of the final corners now does belong Shiraya. He's on his way in. Fireballer getting out of the way. We got the McLaren of Gab. Sorry, actually of Caesar, who's on his way in. Behind him belongs... Well, it is the Williams of Fireballer. The other McLaren of Gab, this time I was correct, making his way to the line now. Gab goes P5, 1:17.786, improves by 1.4 seconds. Great lap there for the McLaren, looking like a good result for the McLarens at the moment. Ray coming to the line now, has finally fit the intermediates, and he's going here. 7 seconds remaining before the end of the session. A lot of drivers on their way in, Cynical being one of them. VTech, I think, sorry, the other McLaren, Mercedes of Mini. Shiraya has done all he can. He'll reside P10. To the line goes VTech. Does not improve. Well, he does improve by about 0.4 of a second. Not enough to get any more up the leaderboards. Lancey, all he can manage is 4th. Slayer Eyes is going to be coming through the final sectors of the lap now. George Mazda Guy to the line. Does not improve. Stays 2.5 off the pace. Reimer is coming to the line now. Does Reimer have an opportunity for pole? I believe he will. No, it's just short. It's P3, 1:16. Improves by over a second, misses out on pole by 4.5 tenths, and more importantly, misses out on a Alpine front row lockout by less than 2/100ths of a second, as Cynical takes the cake on that one. But look how close it is. 4/100ths separate second through 4th here, and the top 5 separated by a second, although it has to be said the McLaren's not far behind on that front anyways. Gab's going to be on his way in. His day's done. We'll see if Ray Ray is able to come to the finish here and complete one. Definitely looks to be a faster lap. Does Ray Ray have anything at the death? Well, I tell you what he does. 1:16, 8:50. Improves by a hell of a lot and moves within 3.5 tenths. Ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a new driver on the second row. It belongs to the Aston Martin of Ray Ray, and what a result that was for him. At the death there, a driver we weren't necessarily paying attention to. He went out on the wets twice, which we thought was a mistake. The first time we understood, the second time was kind of a waste there, but he goes on the intermediates and puts together one hell of a lap. Well, hats off to Lightwork, but I tell you what does Ray Ray have in store here? That's going to be huge. So your starting grid then for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, it is Lightwork on pole by 3.5 tenths over Ray Ray, who at the death takes the second spot. Cynical third, Reimer fourth, and VTech fifth, Lancy sixth. Six very quality drivers amongst the top six here. It's a fourth row lockout for the McLaren, 7th and 8th for Caesar and Gab. 9th is Slayer Eyes, 10th Fireballer, 11th Mini, 12th Shiraya, our championship leader, 13th Gazboy, and rounding out the grid P14 is George Mazdaguy. Well, I tell you what, we're not sure what the conditions are during the race, but if the qualifying session says anything, we're going to have a lot of drivers in contention for this win. Stick with us. Well, assuming the game doesn't make an ass of itself once again, we have fixed the problem. We are going to be back on the formation lap here shortly. And what I'm assuming is going to be a dry session. Hopefully. I don't know. I don't know. Well, I got about 25 seconds until the lobby gets back underway here. We're going to have the formation lap, naturally. But what we do know is this. I think, you know, if we do manage to stay in the dry, we're going to have ourselves a good race here today. That's what I'm really hoping for. If I see the sun is out in the sky, we'll know that it was supposed to be dry the whole way through, and it is. So that's good news. But it's difficult, you know, because I think we may just have ourselves a really good race here. We got a lot of drivers I think could be in contention for this win. And you never know, really. I mean, again, we had a wet qualifying session. People are not really going to know that much about their cars, you know, in the dry conditions like this. It may just be a symptom of whoever's most comfortable with their car. That could be what it comes down to. I have no doubt that people like Lightwork and Cynical and Reimer, and even like Lancy, will do very well in this because they know what their car is going to do. They are, you know, able to understand how the car works and how to adjust when it needs adjusting, and that's what I think is going to happen here. I think drivers like that we've seen time and time again rise to the occasion in this league, are going to do so yet again. But another driver I'm going to be looking for has got to be Ray Ray. He's put together an incredible qualifying session, now finds himself in and amongst the greats here in the Monkey Mafia Esports Series, and, you know, hopefully he's able to put together a good result, a good performance, which turns into a good result. That's what I'm going to be hoping for, because I think he's absolutely got the ability to do it. We'll just have to wait and see if it transpires. 14 cars on the grid for tonight. And we'll have to wait and see if anybody chooses a different tire compound. I don't think... Well, because if we had to restart and the race had started, you would have had to have gone back in the restarted lobby on the tires you had initially chosen. I don't think that's going to be the case. Last time, we had the even split. 7 drivers medium, 7 drivers hard. Is that going to be the case again? I think with the fact that we only have 14 on the grid tonight, the chances for a safety car are going to be quite low, at least in the early going. So I would think today would be the day to try starting on the hard tires and play the long game. If you ask me, that's what I would do. I don't know. It's tough to tell. It's tough to tell, but I think either way, it's going to be a good one here, and I'm really hoping that we put together a good result. Let's once again, we'll catch you up on the remainder of the season here as the formation lap about to be underway. Well, I'm looking at the wrong league calendar. That has to be said. Invite, please. The weather is the same. It's set to clouds, overcast, wet, but because it's overcast, on overcast, it's changed slightly. So I guess perhaps we are supposed to have wet towards the end of the session. That is an interesting question there. Let's see if anybody's taken that into account. And again, we've got about the same. Only difference I'm noticing off the top of my head is, well, actually, as we look here, the top two have changed tire compound. Cynical has gone from the hards to now the mediums. Reimer, I believe, was on the mediums to begin with. VTEC's on the softs, and we didn't have anybody on the softs to begin with. Reminder, the schedule coming up here, November 20th. We go to Brazil. Well, sorry, that's today, dumbass. November 27th, next Monday, we head to Monaco. Jeddah, December the 4th, Austria. The Red Bull Ring, December 11th. Qatar, December 18th. Netherlands on New Year's Day, January the 1st. And Imola rounding out the season, January the 8th. Look how far ahead of the grid Lightwork has gotten here. This is a massive gap to build up here at the start. That's actually quite wild. Typically, you don't see drivers get out to that far of a gap here on the formation lap, but that's what Lightwork's done. We'll have to wait and see. Ray Ray's going to have the better line into the first corner here, and now he's going to be on the same compound of tires as Lightwork. This is going to be a massively interesting start to the Grand Prix here, has to be said. I'm just wondering if I could get a good camera angle. You can't even see the lights here. This camera angle is absolutely preposterously bad. Looks like Shariah hasn't found the grid properly. George Mazdaguy hasn't found the grid properly, and they will be at the disadvantage on the start. But the lights are going to be turning on here any minute, any second. We do have lights, 3, 4, and eventually 5. And for the 9th time this season, the lights are out, and this time in Brazil. Ray Ray down to the inside, I think, did get a relatively fair start. He's going to be on the inside of Lightwork as they go into the Senna S's. Does he stay ahead? Does he get ahead? No, he doesn't. Lightwork's going to take the lead, and behind him, it looks as if everybody's kind of shuffled themselves in order here. Reimer really up against the rear wing then of Cynical as they make their way down the back straight in towards Do Lago here. And the top 4 cars really in amongst the pack here, trying their best to find some sort of advantage as they head up the hill into Ferradura. I think everybody's gotten away pretty okay. If anything, VTEC, despite being on the soft side... Oh! Reimer's off in the wall! Sorry, Lightwork is off in the wall. That is interesting then. We've missed that. But Lightwork has found the barriers on the outside of the corner coming off of turn 7. How much front wing has he lost? The track stays green. Oh, either way, that is a big loss then for Lightwork. He's got a mountain to climb now. I'm just wondering what happened in that exchange. Did he lose the car on his own? Did he get help from behind? Typically, if you lose the car in that scenario, you're going to be, I would think, more well to the inside of the track, not so much the outside. And as well as the angle that he was in at the barriers, he was in left front tire first, which would tell me he got help from behind. And Ray Ray atop the grid. That leads me to believe, perhaps did Ray Ray get involved, and let's go ahead and check on Lightwork now. Does he take the front wing? I'm going to assume he does. Yes, there it is, the front wing coming out of the garage. Garage, that's not how Americans say it. Out of the garage, then. Sometimes I surprise myself with how British I can become in very little time. Ray Ray leading the grid now. Cynical, second place, 0.3 of a second behind. Reimer not far behind him. VTEC is kind of at the tail of this battle here. Despite being on the soft tires, he hasn't very much looked impressive off the start. He's, I think, enough to where he's able to keep up with this battle, but he's not necessarily been in position to make anything happen. And that is going to be a huge question mark then for VTEC, because I think in choosing the soft tires, he was expecting the safety car off the start here. It hasn't happened, and now I think he's at the wrong end of the strategy game. Ray Ray leads the grid here, making their way through 14 and eventually 15. Cynical in second, Reimer third, VTEC fourth, Lancey up to fifth. Behind him, Caesar sixth, and Shariah Coleslaw has made up 5 positions, finds himself P7 after a dismal qualifying session for the championship leader. He's currently once again in within striking distance of the top 5 here as they exit Curva do Sol. DRS activated here. Ray Ray's going to try to defend the inside despite being on the hard tires. Cynical is got maximum pace being on those medium tires, Ray Ray's going to be in a lot of trouble. Is he going to be able to hold on throughout the rest of the sector? Lancey's going up the inside of Lancey, or perhaps around the outside through Dolago and turn 4 and 5. As behind, Shariah's gotten around VTech, and that'll promote him up to 6th. And he's right behind Caesar here for the 5th spot. Looking around the outside, he's made contact with the McLaren then. No damage to report, but either way, that one could have gone bad. I think maybe Shariah just went a little bit too far deep in then, but here's Cynical, really in position here, looking forward on Ray Ray. He's got the DRS, well, he'll have the DRS here in a second. Ray Ray really defending the outside. Cynical nearly went into the grass, and he's made the move happen with DRS. Cynical gets it done. At least in the detection zone, Ray Ray will have the dose of DRS after that. Reimer, as these two battle, well, I tell you what, it's not much of a battle at the moment, but Reimer has made up some time. He will be in position to perhaps get himself into 2nd here. Lancey, cue the Jaws music here. He's in 4th, and he's looking to move himself into the podium positions. But I think as he got an oversteer, well, we cut away from it because Shariah's gone down the inside of Caesar, going through turn 4 and 5. I really thought there for a second Lancey was going to lose the car, but as it turns out, everything has stayed okay. Lightwork, fastest lap of the session so far. Shariah really had to battle for that 5th spot, and he does it well. Then the championship leader promotes himself into the top 5. Very nicely done. But what a scare Lancey just had coming out of Dolago at turn 4 and 5. It really looked as if he had the snap of oversteer on the back end of the car, nearly had come round. Thankfully, he was able to hold on, and hold on he has. He's in position, looking for DRS on Reimer here, and he may just get it. Meanwhile, his teammate is in slightly of a DRS hole here. He's not going to have it to the car ahead, that being his teammate, and Shariah is going to have a lot of defending to do. Down to the inside is Lancey, into the Senna S's, turns 1 and 2. Reimer's had to go wide. He'll have the better corner through the second bit. Look at this! Lancey's gotten into the back of Reimer, and Reimer's well off the track. Well, I apologize, I didn't give you that good of a camera angle, but Reimer had it round the outside of Curva del Sol, and maybe did get ahead of Lance. He's gotten into Fireballer then. We got a huge carnage here as Slayerized and Fireballer. Feel bad for Reimer. I'm not sure if Lancey... the contact was definitely made. That part is true. There was no doubt there. Lancey did get into the back tire of Reimer, but I'm just wondering if, it was Reimer that kind of moved in front of him, thought he could shut the door, and Lancey's foot was in the door. Yeah, it'll be tough to see. It's tough to know without being able to see it. I apologize again for the bad camera angle, but I didn't necessarily expect that one to go as haywire as it did. Caesar's actually gotten down the inside of Shariah, which we kind of thought was going to happen considering the hole that Shariah was in with not having DRS to his teammate. Just wondering if Lancey picked up any damage then, because, if it was enough contact to get Reimer out of shape. Although it has to be said, I'm not quite sure if Reimer had hit anything. I know the back end of the car kind of got into the wall. Not enough to take the car out of the race, and surely not enough to really have any race-changing damage from the looks of it. He's trying to get onto his way back here, but at the moment, he is losing time to VTech, and, it looks like Fireballer's had enough today. He's going to call it quits here in the early going. And the virtual safety car is on track. I'm just wondering what's happened there as Gazboy. Well, that would be the answer why. Gazboy making his way towards turn 9 and eventually Bico de Pato turn 10, and he's missing the front wing on his Aston Martin. And that'll be the end of the day for Fireballer, but Gazboy, not gone very well for him, and that's the reason why we've got the VSC on track. Nobody deciding to pit here. So Cynical has the lead. Remember, we did have before Ray Ray perhaps get into the back end of Lightwork, and that was the reason why Lightwork had fallen off the pace as much as he did. As Mazda guy gets a drive-through for speeding under the virtual safety car, not ideal. But Ray, oh, we've got a yellow flag somewhere, Sector 1, not really sure what, but either way it sorted itself out. Caesar only 2.5 tenths here of Shiraya. And Shiraya, I know he's really not probably going to get him through this sector of the track. He just wouldn't really make that move unless it's the opening lap or you're doing something in desperation. Shiraya, when he waits and he gets DRS, he'll have that opportunity. But for the time being, he does have to wait. And Ray is only just hanging on to that second gap ahead to Cynical. He'll stay within DRS for now. So let's assume you're in Ray's position here, as well as perhaps Lancey. You know, perhaps, I would assume in Lancey's case we're going to be looking at a stewards report later on. Whether it was Ray's fault for Lightworks off then in the early goings, that's going to be a different question. But we talked about this a little bit during the Abu Dhabi race. When you have a situation, when something's happened to you there, whereas it's happened to Lancey and Ray and someone else got the short end of the stick, you'd have to go ahead and think to yourself, are you going to be looking at a stewards report later on? You really can't allow that to play into your mind here. And at the moment, Lancey's doing just that. He's forgotten about that incident with Reimer surely by now. And he's on the prowl, and he's trying to get around Ray, and Ray's made the mistake, kind of falls to the outside of the circuit there. Lancey had a look to the inside, not enough room to make it happen. To Bico do Pato they go. If Lancey gets the better exit, he'll have a go into turn 12, most likely. And I would say Ray's gotten away better that time. Oh, but not that time. Ray spins round and loses control of the car. And he'll fall down the order, and well, good quick thinking there from Lancey to be able to hit the brakes and avoid the spinning Aston Martin. That one nearly went very haywire then for the Ferrari. But that'll promote Caesar to third, Shiraya to fourth. And Ray didn't necessarily let me have a chance to finish my sentence, but the point stands. You can't let that thought of a steward report later in the race perhaps get on your mind and force another mistake, because I think there, what we've just seen is Ray probably trying too hard to, think too far ahead in the future, and, maybe he's thinking he'll have a 5-second penalty for the collision. Oh, but Shiraya's gone off! And this is the inside of Lago. Turns 4 and 5. Well, he hasn't hit anything, but he's done that all on his own, and Shiraya falls down to P6. Yeah, I tell you what, Shiraya's going to wish he had that one back, because as his teammate today, who, only recently has come in as a full-time driver, really breathing down the neck of Shiraya in the championship standing. He's not all that far behind. He's got the McLaren in the way, at least in second place. But I tell you what, Lancey making huge strides, and I would fully expect this championship battle to come down to the wire. And that Ferrari, I can guarantee you, is going to be in that picture when we get back to Imola for the final round. A second the gap here between Lancey and Cynical. Closing in. Lancey, I don't think, if he did have DRS, it didn't really matter that much that time. Wasn't really close enough to make that happen. If he's able to get a good enough exit coming out of turn 12 of Junshao, maybe, just maybe, he'll get an opportunity with the aid of DRS. Of course, we look at it, DRS is not that long. It really only exits turn 14. You see on your mini-map there, under the number 3 to the bottom right of it. That's turn 14. DRS doesn't start until after that, about, what is that, I'd say 500 meters before the entry to the pit lane. It's not all that long of a run with DRS here, has to be said. And whether he has it or not, let's see. Well, I tell you what, he does have it, and I think it's only just kind of to hang on. But remember, according to the weather forecast that we had to really spill the beans on, because the initial lobby had to be reset, we are expecting rain towards the tail end of the session. And I can tell you what, right now, it does look to be slightly more cloudy than it did earlier on, just minutes ago. So maybe does the rain happen sooner than we initially expected? That would be something for sure. It'll be quite interesting to see. You know, obviously we've got cars here. So we got the two Mercedes swapping positions through turn 4 and 5. Let's actually go along with that battle here. Mini, I believe, just kind of giving up that position to his teammate. Nicely done, but what we do have is about... Well, I tell you what, I don't think Lancey's gotten the best exit out of turn 10 because now he's 1.3 behind Cynical. Whereas not long ago it was only 0.7 of a second, and Lancey is now outside of DRS range. As it has to be said, the grid is slightly spread out from each other here. As we're about to begin the 12th lap of the session. Cynical has the lead, Lancey second, Caesar third. Ray has fourth. And remember, we are perhaps going to be expecting a penalty with Ray. Maybe Lancey as well. Shariah Coleslaw, what we do know now, is the first driver on his way for a strategical pit stop. And it's going to be the hard tires going on for Shariah, so maybe that tells me we're not expecting the rain, you know, until the very end of the session. That's what that would tell me. If we were going to expect the rain sooner, we would see a faster compound, like maybe another set of mediums or perhaps even the softs, if we were really going to be close. But Shariah has counted on the rain taking some time, and he's gone on to the hard compound. Well, we have a yellow flag. It's the Mercedes. Is that Mini? Yes, it is. He's had a slight moment going through turn 7. And behind him, the Alpina Lightwork, who, remember, had to pit earlier on. He's P9 at the moment. He's really in position on the Mercedes here. Tell you what, is he going to try and round the outside? That would have been something. My goodness. Meanwhile, it is less than 0.4 of a second here, heading towards turn 4 of Lago. Lancey is really breathing down the shoulders here of Cynical. And Cynical, we just saw, had a slight moment of oversteer there. Perhaps was that a bit of a panic then from the Red Bull. It's less than 0.4 of a second now. Lancey is really... is this the crossover point for the medium tires to the hards? Yeah, I think that might be what it is. Because Cynical, to this point, I mean, he has looked very, very strong. So we'd have to believe it's up to tire degradation now, and I think this is the time where we're going to start to see the hards become the preferred compound. Although 0.8 of a second, it is closing, but not necessarily by all that much. 7.5 closing in. He's not close enough yet for DRS, perhaps as he exits this first complex of corners here, the Senna S's and Curva do Sol. Whoever gets the better exit. And yeah, 0.3 of a second here. Lancey really closing in. DRS activated for the Ferrari. Is he going to look forward into the fourth corner? No, he's just a little bit too far behind for his liking. But he is right in position now, and what we do have, we got a 3-car squabble going on to the back. We've got Gazboy, Shariah, and George Mazdaguy all battling for the 10th spot here. Mazdaguy in a little bit of trouble. He's got Shariah behind. He's going to duck to the inside, try to break the toe. Gazboy in pursuit. Shariah around the outside. He'll have the preferred line through this next corner, but as he goes to Curva del Sol, and he's not going to have to worry about it. He'll have it. Was he ahead at the detection zone is going to be my question. Yes, he was. Mazdaguy has DRS. Gazboy looking to the inside. Mazdaguy chooses the outside, and neither of them are really close enough to make it happen. Mazdaguy's gone heavy on the outside curb. Gazboy will swoop to the inside of turn 5 and make the move happen. Very nicely done there for the Aston Martin. As they head down the pit straight, Lancey close, but not close enough to make it happen. 0.3 of a second entering the first corner. As we have a yellow flag, it's the Alpine of Lightwork again. Something's happened with him. He's off to the inside of the circuit, exiting turn 10, as he just had a snap of oversteer and lost the car. Thankfully, there's nothing there to hit. But either way, the terrible, no good, very bad day for Lightwork has gotten even worse, as he now is relegated down to the 12th spot. Meanwhile, it is still 0.4 of a second in this battle for the top spot. And I tell you what, Lancey will have what is that, light work 5 seconds for speeding into the pit lane, and that's going to be the end of the race for him. So now if you're Ray Ray, knowing that light work is retired on his own, does that mean you don't have to worry about the penalty anymore? Well, if Lightwork wants to watch the world burn, and if it was seriously that much contact between the two that's resulted in his spinning about, then maybe he will. But Ray Ray can't think of that right now. He has to find a way past Caesar, and at the moment he's over 9.5 seconds behind. That one is not the battle at hand there for Ray Ray. In fact, Reimer within a second behind him. Remember, the top 5 still have yet to stop. I'm wondering, VTech, has he... Well, I would say the undercut. Huh. It's a tough question, it really is. I don't know. 0.5 of a second here. We'll go along with VTech, closing in on Reimer. Remember, this is only 0.4 of a second here, and Reimer on older tires. As Shariah getting around Mini into turn 4. That's a good move. 2 Alfa Romeos in close quarters as well. But now we'll go back along with the battle for the lead. It's less than half a second here. DRS is going to be activated for Lancey. Oh, and they're both going to head it. No, Lancey stays out. Bold decision from Lancey. He was going to follow Cynical in. Cynical thought he could trick Lancey into pitting behind him. That's not the case. Is Lancey running better lap times? Oh, is Lancey running good enough lap times here to make the overcut happen? That's going to be a big question. Meanwhile, we've got a 3-car fight for that 3rd spot, and Lancey making his way out, Cynical making his way out of the pits. He's well behind. Reimer looking to the outside. Ray Ray does block the line well. VTech in position, but not quite close enough. Reimer really in a tough spot here because he's on the oldest tires. I would argue the worst tires out of anybody in these 3 cars. Ray Ray 16-lap old hards, doing good enough. VTech's fresher mediums, 10-lap old. Reimer 16-lap old mediums. That is a point, I'd say, where Reimer is at the disadvantage here. VTech is going to look for it. Oh, he's not got the chance at the moment. I believe he's at the Alfa Romeo of Mazda guy. He's had a moment coming out of Curva do Sol, as Mini's just come out of the pits, or is on his way out. That leaves Caesar 2.5 seconds. Caesar's on his way in. Oh, this is interesting here. Do any of these drivers decide to come in? Reimer looks like he's going to make the dive. Yes, he does. So that 16-lap mark looks to be as far as you can go on the mediums. Caesar's gone for the hards. Cynical on the fresh hards. He's actually well under pressure from Gab here for that 5th spot, and Gab being on well older tires, he's doing quite well to hold on. At the moment, VTech still pressuring Ray Ray here, 0.4 of a second for the 2nd spot. If VTech's not going to have to pit for another 6 laps or so, I'm just wondering how long the hards are going to be able to go to the point at which they're comfortable. That's the question, because at the moment, they look fine. My question is going to be this: are the hard tires enough now to stay out until that rain happens? If you look over the horizon here, it does look rather cloudy. But the sun is still breaking through the clouds, and that tells me at about halfway through this Grand Prix, Lancey stays out another lap. He's going for the rain, I would think. Although he is 1.2 seconds faster at the halfway point of the Grand Prix now. VTech in pursuit of Ray Ray here. DRS activated. He'll look for it. He'll fake down to the inside. He will go around the outside. Nicely done from VTech. And that's going to be, well, I would say a relatively easy move considering Ray Ray's tires, the 18-lap-old hards. Looks like Gab has made his way in. We do have a battle here for the 7th spot. Shariah Coleslaw did the undercut and is now 0.2 of a second. Closing in on Reimer here. Reimer on the fresh hards. I would say very under pressure here from Shariah. Side by side through the Senna S's here. Who has the better exit going through Curva do Sol? And I tell you what, mere minutes ago I was talking about how the sun was still breaking through the clouds. It is very overcast now, has to be said, as Shiraya on the inside makes it happen over Reimer. Very nicely done. But Reimer strikes back. He switches to the inside. He'll be on the outside through Ferradura. Top of the hill, turn 6. Oh, around the outside. Does he make it happen? This is a crazy battle here. You don't often see cars side by side through the second sector here. And he's done just that. Very nicely done from Reimer. Whether the pressure from Shiraya is over or not is going to be the question. And the other question, how long do the top 3 continue to stay out? The rain, no doubt, will be on its way. How long is Lancey going to be able to hold on these very worn, very used hard tires? Is he going to be able to wait it out and get to the rain and then make his necessary stop to get to the intermediates or full wets in the very odd case it would be? Lots of questions to be asked here of the top 3 if they're confident enough to get there in time and be able to get there and wait out the rain. Well, Ray within 9/10 of a second here of VTech for the second spot, although VTech being on the better mediums. Oh, we've had something happen. It's Gazboy. Oh, and his front wing is gone. That could be a safety car, a virtual safety car. And no, the answer is neither. Oh, that would have been something there if we got a full safety car for that. You know, it's funny enough, we saw him have the incident before where he lost his front wing on the outside at turn 6. And that caused the virtual safety car that time in an arguably more dangerous part of the track, turn 4 and 5. And he's not brought out the safety car. That is slightly odd to me. Again, the battle at hand is not necessarily Lancey versus a driver, it's Lancey versus his tires. And that as well goes for VTech and Ray here. And I tell you what, those medium tires have got to be getting towards the end. We knew that, 16 laps is going to be about the way. Gazboy's on his way in. Well, we figured he would be with no wing. Closest battle on track at the moment is that of Ray trying to close in on VTech. I think Ray might have a go. Could be wrong. Not too sure. Mostly because I'm not sure if, the tires are, I would almost think, even on degradation. It's a tough question, it really is. The rain hasn't started falling yet. Lots of questions to be asked here. Closing in on about 10 laps to go here in a moment, in a couple laps' time. The rain hasn't started yet, but it does look as if it will. Slayrized is on his way in. The 15-lap-old hards. I'm wondering, is this going to be a front-wing change for the Alfa Romeo? No, he's in for the softs. Sorry, mediums. Thought it was softs. The wheel covers there are red. That's why I got confused. Well, mediums for Slayrized. Has Mark perhaps given him false information, or, perhaps does Mark think it's not going to be as late as it is? I'm not too sure. That's a good question. VTech on his way in. 15-lap-old mediums we thought was going to be towards the end, but if they were staying out this long, that tells me they were preparing for the rain anyways. So VTech to another set of mediums, considering he, started on the hards, took those mediums he just had on 16 laps. He has completed his necessary pit stops, but I'm thinking now, because we've just seen another kind of round of cars choose to pit. So that tells me maybe the rain isn't coming, close enough to where they think it'll affect the Grand Prix. Because despite how dark the clouds are, Lancey and Ray Ray are still staying out. Does this leave them in a bad position? Does this leave Lancey and Ray Ray at a disadvantage? Lancey, on the 22nd lap on his tires, decides to come in. Does Ray Ray follow suit? I'm going to assume he does. Cynical will almost certainly be taking the lead of the Grand Prix here around the outside. As a matter of fact, Lancey's gone to the softs. Cynical will get the lead of the Grand Prix here. Ray Ray has stayed out, which is slightly surprising to me. Cynical takes the lead of the Grand Prix. Caesar, I think, is going to be battling with Lancey here on pit exit. Yes, he will. They're going to be side by side. And look at this. Does the zipper merge work? Yes, it does. Caesar stays ahead. Although Lancey on the soft tires, he's going to have a quick one here, it has to be said. Whether or not he gets back up to the top three here, or top two, is going to be kind of a question to be asked. The Caesar, relatively fresh, hard tires. 6-lap old is a respectable length to be on. He's not going to need to worry about pitting for the rest of the Grand Prix here. And at the moment, he'll have, I would almost think, an advantage until the softs are up to temperature, which isn't going to take that long, considering the soft tires do, acquire and maintain temperature faster than the hards. But all the while, this McLaren is in the way, and that is simply hurting Lancey and his chances to get back to the lead of the Grand Prix here. He's going to look to the inside of the McLaren. He'll get past him with the aid of DRS, but I tell you what, that now leaves about 2 seconds back to Cynical. As now Ray Ray is in the way, and Ray Ray being on the hard tires. One snap of oversteer from Ray Ray, and that almost happened earlier, remember, exiting turn 12. As Lancey will get around Ray Ray relatively easily here. Remember, earlier on in turn 12, Ray Ray had spun the car in front of Lancey. And the quick reaction time from the Dutchman did manage to keep his car intact, but now it is a 1.3 second gap. Lancey, I would think, is going to take the lead of the Grand Prix here, although, something's happened involving George Mazda guy. I'm not entirely sure what. Slayer Eyes the fastest lap. Caesar within 3/10 here of Ray Ray for the third spot. Still no sign of rain. Definitely feels as if it's going to rain. Lancey around the outside. He'll get that one with ease. And Caesar's going to have that same around the outside of Ray Ray. And he'll take the third spot again relatively with ease. And Cynical, it has to be said, despite being on in good standing here, he's not really going to close in that much with DRS. Well, I tell you what, I stand corrected. He's gained about a couple of tenths there. I would think he's actually still in a solid spot if he's able to hold on to the back of the Ferrari here. It may happen. So is Ray Ray. Ray Ray has managed to stay within 3/10 of Caesar here. Up the hill into turn 6 and 7. And you see Ray Ray is really having to drive the car easy here. Meanwhile, Gab nearly got right into the back end of Shirai. He's had to go actually quite wide out of turn 4. He was late on the brakes, almost too late. Nearly got into the rear wing of Shirai and had to take to the road to the outside of the circuit. Lancey will lead the grid back round here. We've got 10 laps to go this time by. And at the moment, only Gab within DRS range of his main competitor ahead of him. Second and a half separates the two atop the table. That was quite a quick gap to be made here between them. Into the pits comes Shiraya. That's kind of bold. 14-lap-old hard tires. That is a bold decision from Shiraya here. I wonder why he's done this. To the softs he goes. Oh, maybe he's going for the fastest lap. That's not a bad idea. At the moment, the fastest lap belongs to his teammate of Lancey, and by a good, almost, actually, yeah, 2 seconds. Well, actually about a second and a half over Slayer Eyes, but out of the drivers immediately surrounding him, yeah, well 2 seconds. Slayer Eyes having a look on Mini here for the 9th spot. Mini maybe did not get the best exit out of turn 2. That's going to set up Slayer Eyes nicely. To the inside he goes, and Slayer Eyes looks as if he's going to have this one relatively easy. I think, you know, had we had a full safety car deployed for either of the front wings shed by Gasboy, we probably could have been looking at the rain here, but at the moment it does seem as if it's going to stay dry. At least the drivers are kind of, you know, planning like that's the case. And oh, by the way, Lancey's opened up a 4.5-second gap over Cynical for that second for the lead of the Grand Prix. And at the moment, we are looking at a very diversely spread group of drivers here, although Mazda Guy nearly had a moment there getting out of the way of Lancey, the leader. Lancey being on the soft tires, he is really cooking the grid at the moment, which, you know, slightly surprises me. I wouldn't... You know, maybe unless he just didn't have another set of fresh mediums, that could have been the case. But Lancey choosing to try to stick it to the end here for the softs. Interesting decision. Let's go along with Caesar here. He's within almost 2.5 seconds of Cynical, trying to hunt him down for the second spot. Cynical is very much losing time to the Dutchman ahead of the grid. 2.6 seconds the gap. Got a yellow flag. Oh, it's the Mercedes. Is it, it's Mini. Mini's gone off. He's rejoined, rather in front of the Aston Martin of Gasboy there. Doesn't look as if he's... Well, if he has lost wing, let's see. No, he hasn't. He hasn't lost any front wing. Maybe just a quick spin coming out of turn 10 for Mini. And he's going to stay out on track, so whatever the problem was, it's rather resolved itself quickly. Meanwhile, Ray 28 lap-old hard tires being hunted down by VTEC on the 6-lap-old mediums. No DRS. Well, yeah, there it is. I was going to say not quite yet. I was wondering what the gap was at the detection zone. It was within the seconds. So Ray has done a great job trying to hold out these hards as much as he could. At the moment, it looks as if he's going to be relegated to that 5th spot, although Reimer's 7.5 seconds behind. Oh, and there's the rain. I see it now. I see it streaming on the Mercedes. To the inside goes VTEC. He will have the spot. Business has just picked up. Lancey has a bit of a decision to make here. We still have, you know, 7 laps to go here, 6.5 laps. Oh, Lancey's got a big choice to make now. He's on the softs for the reason. But is he on softs to the point, you know, to which they're too old? And they're not going to have the grip. Lancey has a huge decision to make here. He stays out. I mean, clearly the track isn't wet enough yet for the intermediates. But I would be surprised if we didn't get anybody choosing the undercut here. Cynical stays out. Caesar stays out. VTEC on the relatively fresh mediums, I think he's going to stay out too. Ray on the 28-lap-old hards does bite the bullet and chooses the undercut here. Surely for the intermediate tires. As we do have the Alfa Romeo, it's Mazda Guy as Reimer 5 seconds for speeding into the pit lane. Ray, intermediate tires. Reimer, intermediate tires. This is massively interesting now. You can see the water hasn't quite collected on the track yet. It may be slightly greasy. But I think Lancey has bought himself enough time to where he can come in, fit the tires here with 5 laps to go, and probably be okay. The rain is falling, not enough to really be alarming. Although, I tell you what, by probably the end of next lap, that DRS will be disabled. And there it is. We are starting to see the droplets now collecting on the surface of the track and on the chassis of the car. That would tell me the intermediates are not all that far out. And as soon as we do get the message saying DRS has been disabled, that is the game telling us that the track is being declared in wet condition. The water collecting on the surface now only just. You see the droplets forming. Oh, this is going to be such a challenge here for these drivers who are on the dry tires. Let's see. VTech on his way in. Is Ray closing in on Gab? Well, Gab's coming into the pits. That's probably not the best option. Shariah's going to be coming in. Reimer. Gab, 5-second penalty speeding of the pit lane. I will say, as Shariah stays out, Reimer is not necessarily closing in by that much on Shariah. He is closing in. In fact, now within 2 seconds, about a 5-second gap not long ago, Reimer is closing in very fast on Shariah Coleslaw here. Lancey making his way out. Oh, as I tell you what, Mazda guy's gone off, exiting the corner. Does that bring out a virtual safety car or safety car? No, it doesn't. Lancey will almost certainly be on his way. And no, Lancey stays out again. Lancey is going for balls here. He is waiting to the absolute last minute to come in. Cynical, what does he decide to do? Cynical comes in. This may have been a huge mistake from Lancey, albeit he's on the soft tires still. He'll have 3 laps to go next time by. The track now officially declared wet. Oh, this is a huge turn of events here. I'm just wondering, as Caesar on his way in, Cynical has pit for the intermediates. VTech making his way. This will promote him to the 2nd spot. Mazda guy's picked up 10 seconds for corner cutting. He's up to 16 seconds. Lancey only making his way through turns 8 and 9 now. Surely will be struggling, but he is well far behind. Far ahead, rather, of the Red Bull of Cynical. Over 30 seconds of gap, as we do have. That's the Alfa Romeo of Slayer Eyes taking a spin out of turn 12. Oh man, this is massively interesting, this. Cynical not necessarily gaining all that much time on Lancey, although Lancey's going to be tiptoeing his way around the circuit now. Surely he will pit this time. Oh, that's a big slide! He did catch it! Oh, but this is going to be the next question. Does he get on the brakes enough to not exceed the pit lane speed limits? Oh, it was close, but he did stay within. And now Cynical only making his way through turn 11 now. Lancey, of course, it's a very long pit lane here in Interlagos. Intermediates going on for Lancey. Cynical making his way out of turn 12 and 13 now. And now, Lancey has left the pit box. The crew is making its way back into the dry. Slayerized as retired. Is this in the pit lane? I'm not entirely sure where that's happened. It must have been. It must have been in the pit lane because, look, there's front wing in the pit lane. Oh, I tell you what, Cynical here, coming out of turn 3, Curva do Sul. He's within 5.5 seconds of Lancey here. How much time will it take for Lancey's tires to get up to temperature? Cynical is closing in, but I don't think by enough. VTech really in position to try to make a move at Caesar. Cynical closing in, but I think Lancey may have just gotten away with one here. That one was dangerously close for Lancey. How he was able to stay out that extra lap on the softs is very impressive to me, as we have now the McLaren of Gab has spun and out exiting turn 3 as the Ferrari of Shariah goes past. Now, who ended up with the fastest lap? It was Lancey still. So unfortunately for Shariah, he will not rescue that point from the clutches of his teammates. Cynical getting around the Alfa Romeo of Mazda guy there. VTech in pursuit of the podium here. We have 2 laps to go, and now we start to see Cynical now losing time to Lancey here. 5 seconds the gap. It was 4.8 before they began the lap. And it looks to me now that Lancey is going to win yet another Grand Prix here. What I believe will be his 6th of the season. Good guess. 6th of the season if Lancey walks away with it. Closest battle on track is Ray to Caesar here. for that third spot. But at the moment, Caesar's doing quite well in the wet, enough to keep VTech at bay for the time being. Lancey making his way through the second sector. Mini's picked up 3 seconds for multiple warnings. 0.8 of a second here between VTech and Caesar for the third spot. Currently the closest battle on track. We're going to have a couple positions here determined on penalties. I say that, they're actually quite far enough away from each other to where I don't think that's going to be the case. Lancey coming to the pit straight now will begin the final lap of the Grand Prix. Oh, VTech, that's a big slide. And again, he struggles getting up to speed. .8 of a second, and yes, closing for VTech here. Yeah, I don't think he's really close enough yet to make something happen. Lancey making his way through turn 4 and 5. Now we have a yellow flag, and it's Mazda guy getting out of the way. Ray, I think a little bit too far back to make anything happen on this battle. And VTech not making the overtake happen into turn 4 and 5. Unless Caesar makes a clinical mistake exiting the corner. I think he's going to keep that third spot. And as Lancey makes his way into turn 10, Bico do Pato. You know, somehow, again, Lancey has made his way into a win here. Time and time again, so far this season, we've seen one of two things. We've either seen him dominate, or we've seen him take wins by the skin of his teeth. And I think tonight, he really had to gamble with how late he stayed out on the softs. But Lancey, as he makes his way through the final stages of the lap now, for the 6th time this season, Lancey, the Dutchman, will win. Here in the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, Cynical will take second. A very good effort from him. Just missed out. Caesar, I think, is going to be taking this third spot here. VTech's too far behind. Tell you what, Reimer with a 5-second penalty. This one actually might be rather close. Oh, it looks like Mini spun out there. Oh, no, sorry. Reimer had the 5-second penalty back to Ray. That was the penalty. Yeah, I kind of read the timing wrong. Soraya is going to be making his way to the line here shortly. He's going to be finishing P7. Gab, despite his penalties, is going to take P8. 9th is going to belong to Gazboy. 10th to Mini. And 11th is going to be George Mazda guy, who's already come across the line. Gab's picked up an additional 5-second penalty, and Gaz is the only driver left here to come round. Be sure to join us next week when we head to the Monaco City Street Circuit for the 10th round of the Monkey Mafia esports season. Hotspot's been a pleasure joining you along this time. And we'll see you next week. Have a happy Thanksgiving if you're in the States. We'll see you next week.